Hi all, let's have a look at another classic trap today for our traps playlist. This is a trap within the Damiano defence. So Damiano was an early Portuguese player who was actually one of the first opening theoreticians. So he had this defence named after him, and to demonstrate this and the trap, let's have a look at the game of Greco, who came after him against someone with no name, NN for short. E4 from Greco, E5, knight F3, and now we have the Damiano defence, F6. It's not considered good, and there's a very strong move available here for white. And it's become common knowledge, a lot of these variations that could ensue here. Can you guess what white plays here? The most forceful move available, if I give you 5 seconds, starting from now. Okay, knight takes e5. We're going to look first at f takes and maybe look at some variations after. White plays now queen h5 check. Now the first point of this is that if black plays g6, which he didn't in this particular game, then queen takes e5 check hits the rook and king, winning at least the exchange. Run the knight here. This is very good for white. So black, he doesn't want to lose his rook. He plays king e7, and now we have queen takes e5 check, king f7, bishop c4 check, and the most stubborn move here is d5, but black in this game just played king g6, and this allows the king to be kicked around. Queen f5 check, king h6, d4 check, forcing black's only move now, basically g5, and now a very strong move from white, which I'm sure you can guess if I give you 5 seconds to pause the video if you want. H4. This attack is just absolutely murderous in this position. Black offered very little resistance and played king g7, and after queen f7 check, king h6, it was double check and mate. However, you might think there's no reason whatsoever to play this Damiano defence. Well, he himself considered it pretty bad and actually thought that after knight f3 he came to the conclusion knight c6 was one of the stronger defensive tries, with the Philidor defence being a bit passive. So yeah, he himself didn't like this defence because of knight takes e5. The funny thing is black, yeah, doesn't have to completely lose outright, and you might have a punt with this given what I'm about to tell you. You know, for your bullet or maybe even blitz games, if you want to outrage your opponent at your apparent incompetence. What you can do in this position is play queen e7, and you've got to be careful here not to play too routinely to queen e7. You know, if you play a check here, say knight takes g6, guess what black's got here? Queen takes e4 check, and you'll be losing now. You'll be losing a piece. Yeah, you've got to be careful after queen e7, and perhaps best is just to retreat the knight. Now black can either take on e4. This is not considered good because then bishop e2, and then white's going to get a big lead in development, kicking that queen away, and this is going to be dangerous, very dangerous for black. This is not to be recommended at all. This position here, d4, black is behind in development, and the queen is subject to being kicked around, and there's things like knight b5 as well to try and win that dark square bishop here. So this is really quite good for white, but better is if you just, as black, if you want to play this as a surprise weapon in this position after knight f3, just to play d5. So d5 here isn't totally terrible, not completely and utterly terrible for black. So you might have this as a surprise weapon. Okay, so other possibilities which are quite interesting to have a look at though, after knight takes e5, this line, let's have a look at this again, but offer instead d5 here. So bishop takes d5. So this bishop's been activated. Is it useful? Well, it immediately stops queen f5 check. But here again, h4 is pretty strong in this position. Trying to get this h5 in. Black's best is probably to play h5, not h6, but h5, which would leave the h6 square available to the black king as well as h7. Because now white has a very strong, technical resource to try and basically mate the black king. Can you see what white can do here if I give you a few seconds to pause the video? Okay, the idea here, you want to deflect this bishop away from f5. So bishop takes b7. So now if bishop takes b7, that would be terrible. We have check, and then d4. This is absolutely crushing this position, this discovered check on the king, because after g5 white has a really strong move in this position. Can you see what white's strongest here is? If I give you 5 seconds here. Okay, you want to take away all the king's escape squares, queen f7, and now hg is absolutely going to be murderous. It doesn't matter if black tries to defend g5 like this, he'll just get mated with rook takes h5. It's absolutely murderous position, queen f7. So because of this, black cannot really take this bishop. But there's another key point here. On bishop d6, can you guess the strongest move for white? You might not have seen this stuff before. In fact, in preparing for this video, I wasn't totally aware of these variations myself, I have to admit. But there's a key move here which is actually quite well known as well. And it's absolutely like the best move. Okay, queen a5. Because the queen is hanging around for this knockout blow, queen f5 on this 5th rank. This is pretty diabolical for black. If he just, what is he going to do? If he doesn't want to get mated, he's going to lose the rook. So that's pretty diabolical. If we're being completely objective about this position, you have to remember though, white has sacrificed his knight. So black's best is actually not to lose the rook. Knight c6 hits the queen. After bishop takes c6, we need to take stock of the pawns. White is basically quite a few pawns up. There's 4 pawns for black and 5, 6, 7, 8 pawns for white. So quite a few pawns have been lost here for black as the outcome of this position. Now definitely should be aware knight takes e5 is one of the more forcing ways of playing this position to try and refute this defense. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.